Hello, I'm the Centrist Dad. Welcome to my channel. Hello and welcome. If you're new here, then don't worry, so am I. This is a new channel that I'm kicking off. I'm nervous, I'm excited, and there's so many different things I want to explore. But first of all, who am I? Why do I call myself the Centrist Dad? And more importantly, what is a centrist? Now, I've not always been a centrist. In fact, for me, it's a very recent decision. I think, frankly, if you want to know what a centrist is, you get a different answer depending on who you ask. If you ask Google, you'll get a very simplistic answer about how a centrist is basically someone with modest political opinions. And for most of my life, I didn't really know what a centrist was, or that it was even a valid position to take politically. I had always identified myself as left-wing. And I think through a combination of the way I grew up, the opinions in my childhood household, the situation that I found myself in as a child, I happily adopted a socialist and mildly liberal stance to my politics. I thought it was right to see money redistributed. I thought it would be the correct thing in all instances to fight for the powers of the working man when he was in need of it most, to see the corruption of the managers and leaders of our society brought down, that we may have a utopia, that socialism would rule. And then I started to think. I started to notice clashes between two things. On the one hand, I had my Christian faith, and that is what guided my worldview, my decision-making. I never did it perfectly, but it's what I strive to do, follow Jesus every single day. And on the other hand, I was noticing that the left-wing political parties, and even more so the left-wing voices in the media, were saying things, standing up for things that I usually couldn't relate to, and quite often couldn't find myself being able to agree with because of my attempt to be faithful to Jesus Christ. But at the same time, I couldn't blind myself to the fact that there clearly was and still is a lot of corruption due to poorly managed capitalism in the West. All of the things that I knew were injustices, that it seemed like socialism, or at least left-wing thinking, could be an answer to, that was still a problem. It didn't go away. And it troubled me, and it still troubles me, to find that actually a lot of Christian voices who talk about politics too often blindly follow the right simply because they seem to hate things on the left. Now, this became especially poignant to me in one particular moment when I was a teacher. Now, education generally in Britain is a very left-wing environment. If you were to ask the political opinions of most teachers and educators, hands down, they would be on the left of the current political spectrum. And at the time, that's where I would have very, very, very happily put myself. And then at an end-of-year party, I was sitting with some of my colleagues, and because of the informality of the situation, asked a colleague I would consider friend. He was a far more senior, well-experienced science teacher. And I asked him, have you ever met any right-wing teachers? And he leaned over the table and he said, yeah, you. Now, at the time, I think I just gave a sort of nervous kind of, because I knew that I didn't agree with him. I was left-wing, you know, but he was so certain to point at me and look me in the eyes and put me in the right-wing bracket. And I had always thought, no, right-wing? No, they're the opponents. They're, if you will, the enemy. So suddenly, I find myself between a rock and a hard place. For all these years, I've been happily, confidently, and comfortably defining myself as on the left-wing side of things. And then suddenly, someone who I respect and value their opinion confidently puts me in the right-wing bracket. What am I supposed to do? Frankly, in the years after that, I had far more important things to worry about. I felt like I wasn't having any joy in my teaching career. I certainly wasn't making anywhere near enough money, a topic for another video. And I had various mental health challenges and I suppose I would say issues of the heart that I needed to deal with first. Worrying about politics was trivial in comparison. I met my wife-to-be. We got married, had a wonderful honeymoon. All of that was utterly exhausting. And this year, we became parents. We have a beautiful little baby, and I am kept awake at all hours of the night, but it's completely worth it. I really, really love being a father. But when my wife was pregnant, I really, again, started to think heavily about political issues. I could see all around in the news, in society around me, that things were bad. They still are. And frankly, they always have been. And a new reality was really brought to my attention, knowing that I was bringing a new little innocent life into the world. What kind of world was I bringing my child into? What would I have to do to protect them from nefarious things, foul opinions, bigotry, racism, corruption? All of these things that have always been a theoretical threat in my mind suddenly became a more pragmatic threat. And so in preparing for parenthood, I felt like I've gone on a new, revised, but relieving political journey in my life. I don't care about certain things as much as I used to, which is in of itself a great relief. And I think about things through a new lens. As a Christian, I always knew it was the right thing to put God first, to view all things, especially politics, through the lens of the life and character of Jesus Christ. But if I'm honest, all of my previous political opinions had been tainted, or at least influenced by me wanting a better career, me wanting fairer taxation for me, a house, a car, all the rest. But all of that ultimately is about me. I realized that if I'm to be a good dad, I have to learn a new level of selflessness. So no longer do I try to view politics as right versus left, us versus them. I think it's completely okay to go through life looking at political issues, all of which are different, sometimes overlapping, but unique situations to discuss, and seeing it more like a pick and mix. You don't have to pick one side or the other. Life is far more complex and nuanced than that. So I've decided I can happily call myself a centrist. And actually, if you look at political history, the stances that have been held by the left and the right can shift radically through time. Humans are fleeting things. Our politics even more so. And because of this constant shifting that cannot be pinned down by any act of mankind, I adopt a secondary meaning to calling myself a centrist. I want to be centered. I don't want life to feel like I'm a boat being tossed around on the waves, the direction of my life forever changing because of forces beyond my control. I want one solid, dependable guide through life. I want to learn how to be a good provider for my family, therefore a good worker and a good role model. I want to learn how to be a good carer, to be emotionally connected with my child and increasingly so with my wife. And because those are the things that really matter, taking an identity in political stances isn't going to achieve that for me. And so I want there to be good, healthy, and polite discussion about political issues. And ultimately, I want conclusions of discussions to be based on what God reveals through the Bible. And though it may seem that many conclusions made appear right-wing or left-wing, I want to stand firm in the knowledge that I made those decisions with the help of the universe crafting God who personally loves me sacrificially. And because the sacrificial love of Jesus is for all people, no matter where you're from, how young or old you are, I hope you can be inspired and that you'll join me on this journey of discovery. How do we craft our worldview when we put Jesus first and foremost? So what does that mean for this YouTube channel? Well, it means that I really want to tackle and discuss with politeness and sincerity some of the, albeit difficult, political topics of today. And I definitely want to do that with faith in mind. And so I'm going to be doing a teaching series on the Christian life. I'm going to be looking at various passages in the Bible and just bringing to your attention things that I've learned that I find utterly valuable. But I'm also going to be doing other videos about passions and interests. I'm going to be doing some book reviews. I'm going to be doing some story sharing, talking about how my faith and life experiences and mental health struggles have impacted me at various points in my life. And eventually I hope to get other people on here as well, sharing their stories. And overall, I just want to communicate the frankness of what life is like, being a dad in the modern age, being a Christian in the 21st century, being a slightly nerdy adult male who isn't getting any younger, and who has lots of real concerns about this world around us. So as usual on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Share your opinions down below. I've been the Centrist Dad. I'll see you next time.